really can apply in any relationship arena. And what I'm hoping to do, kind of similar to last week, next week will be different. I'm trying to find what are the things that get in our way. Not looking at others, what's in the way of others, but what gets in our way of having better relationships. So anyways, sometimes the problem isn't on the outward. It isn't someone else. It really is kind of like, if we look at it from another perspective, read this funny joke this week. A couple guys, they hadn't seen each other in a couple years. It had been a while. And when they bumped into each other on the street, one looked sad and almost on the verge of tears. And the other man said, "Hey, Joe, how come you look like the whole world has caved in?" Sad Joe said, "Well, let me tell you, 3 weeks ago, an uncle died and left me $50,000. "Well, that's not that bad, is it? Hold on, I'm just getting started. 2 weeks ago, a cousin I never knew kicked the bucket and he left me $95,000 to boot." His friend goes, "Well, that's great. I kind of like that. Last week, my grandfather passed away and I inherited almost $1 million. He goes, "Well, Joe, why are you so glum?" And he goes, "This week, nothing." Finding contentedness can be tough, especially in a world of greed, especially in a world of selfish desires, especially when we don't get a proper perspective of the blessings and all the wonderful things we do have. Sometimes things get so good, we get used to that, thinking that's the normal, that when there is adversity, when there are some problems, we just go to negative town. And especially when it comes to relationships, we can also find ourselves being selfish or not seeing things from a particular perspective that would be a little bit more fair. We sometimes can be a little bit greedy when it comes to that. Now, the 10 Commandments are foundational into building a stable life and to find peace in life. Peace with God, peace with man. The 10 Commandments are very important. And the 10th commandment is a key commandment that kind of acts like a shield and a protector for other commandments. Ultimately, all the commandments are very relational at their core. And the 10th commandment kind of gives us a key to understanding all the rest. Exodus chapter 20, verse 17 gives us the 10th commandment. And it says this, it should be up on your screen. "You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male or female servant or ox or donkey or jaguar or anything that belongs to your neighbor." I threw the jaguar in there, by the way. His RV. See, the 10th commandment, do not covet his house, his wife, his maidservants, manservants, like anything. Don't covet after those things. The 10th commandment is like a key to the other commandments and to so many other aspects in life. All of the other commandments are about specific actions like murder, adultery, theft, perjury. But the 10th commandment takes us a little bit deeper because the 10th commandment is about what's unseen. Theft is seen. Murder is seen. Adultery is seen. The 10th commandment deals with what happens in the secret place of your heart. People can't see a covetous heart. People can't see envy and jealousy when it's hiding in your heart. Coveting is really only known to you and to God. Now, we know that the devil may tempt you, but it is what lies in your heart. It's that which lies in your heart that makes you a target for temptation. Now, we learn from James chapter 1 where our sin comes from. Sin does not come from God, the Bible teaches. And even though we know that it's Satan who attempts to tempt us, or tempt you and make us fall or make you fall, the temptation is a result of our own inner desires that reside inside of our hearts. Hidden desires in our hearts become the target that the devil aims at. James chapter 1. We're going to read a couple James scriptures today because when it comes to relationships, it's huge. James chapter 1, verses 13, 14, and 50 says this: "Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Did you catch that? Not only is it that God doesn't cause temptation, God doesn't tempt anyone. The truth is the devil's coming after you to tempt you because of the evil desire that's already in your heart. Money, possessions, position, fame, recognition, pleasures, power. These desires that we have for ourselves cause us to fall into temptation. And yes, even when it comes to relationships, our desires can lead to jealousy and envy and covetousness. And they often rear their ugly little heads in ways that can seem righteous, can seem as if we're the victim, can seem as if, but they're not always. James also teaches us in James chapter 4 more on that. He teaches more on the relational aspect to this dealing with our hearts and what's on the inside. James chapter 4 verses 1, 2, and 3 says this: what causes fights and quarrels among you? Now, this is obviously relational talk, right? What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? We have these battles in us. Isn't that where the quarrels and the fights come from? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God, and when you ask God, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Relationships often suffer from simple envy and jealousy.